What's up, man?
How
Welcome. And I hate to kick it right into it, but
Oh, it's all
it's
good.
nice. I appreciate you making the drive out, man. How's everything been going since COVID kind of hit you guys?
So at the beginning, it was a little bit weird. I mean, at first we were like, oh, cool, we get to stay at home, watch movies and whatnot. But after a while of just being cooped up, not being able to do anything really, it started to kind of take a toll.
Yeah.
And
Cabin fever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and I noticed my girlfriend's demeanor was kind of off. I noticed mine was kind of off because like we couldn't even work out or do anything like that. But we got through it, and now everything is a lot better. I'm in a much better headspace. I know Bianca's in a much better headspace too. Like I've had a bunch of releases lately, and I think that's sort of elevated my mood also. Because there's really a moment where I was like, is everything over?
It was a weird time, right?
Yeah.
It was strange. I mean, I know for a lot of people when it kind of happened, there was like a mix of like fear and, okay, we're going to have to stay home and things will kind of pick back up soon. And it was tough for the first couple months. And then you kind of settle and get used to your routine. You get used to doing certain things. You kind of you go through some stuff internally, and then you end up coming out.
Exactly. Like in the beginning too, I had no motivation to really make music.
You were just chilling.
Yeah,
right?
I was just chilling.
Yeah.
And also, I wasn't even really in a headspace to do it. I wasn't feeling creative or anything like that. So I started picking up remixes to kind of get me back into the groove. Because I noticed in the beginning I didn't have a routine, because my whole routine was just thrown out the window, my normal routine. So I had to reestablish a new routine, and like I said, now we're in a much better headspace, and I'm like fine now.
Yeah, that's great, man. Good to hear. And as the producing kind of level, like you've focused more into that, obviously, because gigs haven't been coming around. Have you been doing a lot of like live stream stuff?
So I personally, from like any of my accounts, I haven't been doing live streaming, but whenever I get asked to do live stream, I'm more than happy to do it. And I had the Desert Hearts live stream. I think I did a live stream for my friends down in San Diego. They're called the Umbrella Friends crew. Like they throw their own festival and stuff like that. When we can't have festivals.
Right.
So I've done
that'll be.
Yeah, right. So I've done some of those live streams, but for the most part, I've focused on remixes. I haven't really focused on too much original stuff. I mean, I have finished some tracks.
You have a new EP that just came out too.
Yeah, I have a new EP. It just came out on Le Youth's label called Progression. And shout out to Le Youth. But yeah, I picked up remixes for the most part because, as at least my understanding was, if dance floors aren't going to be open, all this music that I'm going to be releasing into the world is sort of going to be just tossed out into the ether.
Right.
And I make like very club ready music, So I put a hold on some of my original stuff, focused on the remixes, so I still had stuff coming out. And, hopefully when things start to open, I can start to release all of my original stuff that I have been producing.
It's interesting how that kind of has an effect on your entire stance of
your
like
game plan and everything.
For sure.
Exactly.
Where are you from originally? If I want to kind of like start from the timeline of your progression as an artist.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I was born in New York, but I was raised in Encinitas, which is in North County of San Diego.
Yeah.
So I was raised in a city that I went to high school, for example, with like Marbs from Desert Hearts and stuff like that.
Small world.
Yeah. I'm just a little bit older than them. But yeah, so I'm from Encinitas, like small little beach town, really, really beautiful beach town in San Diego. Then I moved to Los Angeles because I went to UCLA, and I've pretty much been here ever since. So it's been a while.
Relatively native to LA. Okay.
I mean, I feel more at home in Los Angeles than I do going back to my hometown.
Same.
Right?
Yeah, you live here long enough, and you kind of get accustomed to the people. You get accustomed to the vibe, what you can do out here. I think you can do damn near anything in LA.
Exactly.
You go through it enough.
Exactly. And I also, when I moved here at like the age of 19 or 20, and now I'm in my 30s. LA is really what shaped me. So I view LA like I view myself as a native.
Right. Okay. So you've been around kind of the early days of house music. You've been in LA long enough to where your impression of music started here. Yeah.
I mean, shoot, in 2008 I was interning at Dimmock when like before Dimmock was even a dance music label. It was an indie rock label at the time. So they had bands like the Willows, the Klaxons, all of those, like Block Party.
Great band.
Yeah, right.
Block Party.
Yeah, so Dimmock used to sign indie bands like that, and I started interning at Dimmock because I knew I wanted to be in the music industry.
From where? Like, what was the influence for you to decide, like, music industry? Because it's...
Oh, okay. So I've always been extremely passionate about music. In high school, I was the kid who everybody would go to learn about, like, new underground artists or whatever, because I was one of the first to hop on the Napster train.
Okay.
And once I figured out Napster, that introduced me to artists you would never ever hear of, you know, because like you'd have to go to some record shop in the middle of nowhere because those kids pressed the vinyl that made it to their hometown record shop.
Right.
But it was all uploaded when MP3s came out into Napster. It was all uploaded onto there, and that's when I started finding out about like really cool music that I'd never heard before.
Surfing through Napster, like, on your own, diving into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the download speeds back then were just insane. So I'd have like 1 million songs after, you know, like a 4-hour period, right? So because I had such an eclectic taste in music, everybody would always ask me for tracks, like, what are you listening to, this and that. And I just realized that, hey, maybe I want to end up in the music industry. So when I was still a student at UCLA, I just started reaching out to labels, and I heard from nobody. And then I found out about Dimmock, and I saw that they threw this party at Cinespace called Dimmock Tuesdays.
Cinespace, damn.
Yeah, remember that?
Forever.
Yeah. So I started attending the Dimmock Tuesdays, and I found their email, and I literally emailed like once every 2 days until I finally got a response 2 weeks later. And at the time, the label manager, I think his name was Luke, he emailed me back. He's like, listen, I'm going to give you an internship because you emailed us so much, but I just wanted to let you know you're starting on a bad note.
That's fair. Yeah, at least he's giving you the opportunity, though, but he's like, listen, bro, 45 emails later. Hey, sometimes you got to be persistent like that to get into the fucking industry, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's how I started at Dimmock, and like, you know, dance music hadn't really popped off then. At least, I feel like the turning point was EDC 2010, really.
Mm-hmm.
But so this was like 2008, and dance music was bubbling. But like I said, Dimmock wasn't even a dance music record label. I was only learning about this stuff from the people who were affiliated with the label.
Right.
Because my realm was very much in the indie rock world at the time, and like hip hop. But I knew I wanted to be an A&R at the time, so I wanted to learn about how a label is run, and this and that, and what it takes to really develop an artist. So that's why I applied to Dimmock.
But there's no particular genre of you coming in, like, I want to get involved with house music, even before DJing, producing?
No, not at all, actually. I was very much in the hip-hop world, so I was producing just, like, on what, like, Fruity Loops? Well, they called it Fruity Loops at the time, you know, because you could get a cracked version of it so easily.
Yeah.
So I was producing on Fruity Loops. Just making hip hop beats. I looked up to producers like Polo de Don and like all of these really, really big mainstream rap and R&B producers at the time. And then when I went to EDC 2010, the last EDC in Los Angeles,
love that. That's still to this day probably my favorite festival.
I think I'd have to agree.
I started, it was like How Sweet It Is 2009. That was like my first introduction to festivals, and then EDC here was bonkers, dude.
Right?
That shit was crazy.
Yeah, so EDC 2010 was my very first introduction to, you know, raving and the whole culture and everything. And like I got hit so hard by the community, my love for it deepened immediately. I had no idea that this warm, welcoming, loving world existed, and you know, that style of dance music at the time, it was like the precursor to Big Room, but it was still progressive. I just fell in love with it. And I was like, this sounded so exotic. What is this? And I basically just became a professional raver after that.
Hell yeah.
You know, I just immersed myself into the scene.
That's usually how it goes. I mean, especially in those times when house music, I'm not sure how many they had in LA before that one, but my uncle used to go to like after hours. So I would see him kind of go to house music shows. I'd see him go to festivals. So by the time I was of age, you kind of get addicted to going to the shows along with all the other stuff that we're not going to talk about that. But, you know, I mean, those were the times, and those were kind of like the young days of that music.
Absolutely. And it was so fresh and so new, you know? So that's really how I got into the like rave culture and whatnot. And it's funny because when people hear that I interned at Dimmock, they just immediately think that, oh, that's how you got into dance music and stuff.
Right,
and I have to tell them, like, no. It was very much indie rock. I had no idea that this world even existed until literally, like, 2010.
How did they shift from being an indie alternative label to kind of gearing towards house music?
So I think it's because, Steve Aoki, he had always been a touring DJ, and he was starting to play more electronic stuff because he was really, really close friends with, like, the Ed Banger crew, Busy P, and all of them. I remember a lot of them used to roll through Dimmock. And like he was tight with Justice and them. So Dimmock Tuesdays at Cinespace, they started throwing shows with, before Chromeo was big, Chromeo played. Before Lady Gaga was big, Lady Gaga played. And then all of those Ed Banger dudes started performing at Cinespace Tuesdays. So due to that, it slowly phased out the indie rock stuff and started to phase in their kind of music.
Naturally. Super organic for them.
Yeah, super.
So they didn't, like,
organic.
jump ship and decide to, like,
exactly. No. It was super organic, and then Steve started to use it as a platform for his stuff, and, like, that's how he got to where he is
And
now.
did that kind of help you transition from the hip-hop beats and making, indie alternative choices as far as your Napster searches, and then you went to EDC, and it sounds like everything kind of pushed you towards it naturally. Again, even being involved with Dimmac's change.
So my story took a little bit of a turn because, so after EDC 2010, I wasn't producing as much. I was sort of focused on. I transitioned into the acting world from
the
college.
Acting world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I was at UCLA, I don't really talk about this stuff that much. But when I was at UCLA, I used to model, and with modeling came being sent out on commercial auditions. Right. So, like, I booked the very, very first commercial I booked was this Wendy's National. And from there, when I got out of college, it was, like, basically, like, still the financial collapse.
Right.
So my dad was like, all right, you basically have as much of a chance booking a role on television as you do getting a job right now. So you might as well just go for the acting thing at the moment. So I focused on that for a bit, but on the weekends I would be going to shows all the time. And so this happened for like 4 years. I started to book, television shows. I was in movies. My friends. No kidding. Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. I was on, like,
I had no idea.
I was on, like, Pretty Little Liars. I was on Castle. I was on Big Bang Theory.
That's tight, dude.
But my friends on the weekends who I would go to these shows with, they'd always be like I'd be the one showing them the new artists and stuff, or the new tracks, and then I'd be like, hey, we should go check out this artist this weekend. They're like, oh, who's that? I'm like, dude, just trust me.
Yeah.
Just trust me, So after a while of doing that, they were like, have you ever thought about DJing? And I'm like, no, I don't know how to DJ. Like, it's some magical thing.
It doesn't seem,
I have no idea,
Yeah.
And they're like, honestly, like, we think you'd be really good at it. So at around, like, 2014, I just got kind of jaded with the acting industry and going on auditions because it very much is a stereotypical industry where they look at you and they just want to put you in a box. Like, this is your casting. You cannot go outside of this casting because America will not understand if you're, if, like, you're brown and you're not hood. It's
no
like
kidding.
racist. Yeah, it was crazy. Like, the things that they wanted to push me
deliberately,
into,
like, they would make it a point to say that, hey, this is kind of what we have in mind. If you don't fit that, it's not going to work.
Yeah, and, like, every single audition I would go on, even if it didn't have it in the breakdown of the character breakdown, the description of what the character is, I'd go in, I'd do the role, and then they say that was great, but can you put, like, an urban accent on it?
God.
And, just getting that for years, I became disenchanted with the whole thing.
I can imagine.
So in 2014, I had never ever even considered taking music production to the next level. I had never even considered DJing. In 2014, I saw an ad in Craigslist. There was this dude who, like, I still talk to him sometimes today. It's crazy.
Were you just surfing Craigslist or something?
I was just surfing Craigslist for CDJs because I was like, maybe I should, like, maybe I should teach myself how to DJ. And I found this dude who had CDJ 900s and a DJM 900 Nexus mixer, and he was selling it for, like, everything for $3K at the time, which the mixer was more than that alone. Right. So I met up with him, and he was like, "Do you know how to DJ?" I was like, "Nope. I'm going to teach myself." He was like, "Oh, okay, that's interesting, you know?" And so I literally just taught myself for all of 2014, and then magically I found out about Icon Collective Music Production School. Yeah. And, you know, I wasn't really sure about Icon, never really heard of it, but I saw on their website that they had like these artists, you know, Jaws, Keizo, Slander, all before they blew up in the bass music world. And I hit up my friend who was a music manager at the time, and I was like, "Hey, have you heard of this school? Is it any good? Is it legit?" And she's like, "Oh yeah," and she listed those artists, and she's like, "Watch, by the end of the year, they're all going to be massive." And this was like mid 2014, and then at the end of the year, all of them were massive, right? So on a whim, I just talked to my family, and I was like, "Listen, I'm not happy acting at all, even if I'm getting roles. I'm just not fulfilled. I'm not going to be happy doing this." So
it's good of you to kind of realize that and be able to like say it, as opposed to just trudging to like, "Hey, I'm already in the industry. I have my SAG. I have everything kind of lined up, and it's kind of going." So people stick around, because once you get in the industry, people are kind of like dying to get in as it is.
Yeah, exactly.
But for you to be able to spot that out, especially dealing with the whole, can you put an urban spin on it? Like, come on, that's absurd. I can imagine you totally get over that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I had a long talk with my family, and I was like, "Listen, I truly feel," I'm like, you guys have known me. I took piano lessons when I was younger. You know how much I love music. You see me making music for fun on my computer already. I think if I attended this school, I could take everything to the next level, and I really truly think I can do it. And my dad was like, "If you're not happy doing this, if you truly think you can make your mark in music," he's like, "Go for it."
I love it, dude.
He's like, I think you should do it then." And yeah, then I applied to Icon, and I found myself
for music production.
Okay. I found myself there. First class was January 5th of 2015.
Does it operate as like a standard class? 20 to 30 people in there. They sit. Someone kind of explains how to go through certain things. Like
yeah. So there's about like 15 of us in class. Like for example, I was in class with Tommy Garcia.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And then Rinzin was in the afternoon track at the same time. So we all went to Icon literally at the exact same time. It was about 15 kids per class, and then you had class every other day. You had 6 classes, and basically though, for like a full year, every single class you had to create a new like 2-minute track with the guidelines that they had set. But you know,
that's dope, dude.
For every single class, you had to make 5 to 6 different 2-minute tracks every single week. So you were just like bombarded with everything. It was really, really intense, but you know, we came out the other end basically being professional. Right. You have
professional producers.
Yeah, professional producers.
So was the producing kind of that drew you more than initially just kind of putting tracks together as a DJ? You've always leaned more creating your own music?
Yeah, so what it was is, you know, once I demystified the DJing process, and I realized, oh, it's not this like crazy hard thing. You know, I hate to say it like that, because
it seems like it's like unattainable at first when you see someone on a stage like that.
Exactly, that's what I totally thought it was. You know, I mean, DJing is an art form. Don't get me wrong, but like the technicality of it, I realized once you get it down, you got it down.
Right.
So, but what really drew me was when I learned that DJs were the ones who were making their own music, and I started to realize that every single DJ, for the most part, has a very unique sound to them. That's what started to draw me into producing. I was like, what are my inspirations? How can I develop my own specific sound, and how can I share that with the world?
And you were thinking that while you were at Icon?
Oh yeah,
Dude,
because
that's good, man. A lot of people get through that, and it takes a long time for people to like kind of realize that they have to have their own sound. You have a particular to you. Yeah. So for you to think of that while you're in a setting like Icon has probably helped you a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I had this instructor named well, we called him DG, but his name's David Garcia, and he was our music business instructor. He really opened my eyes to the fact that, you know, you know, once you become an artist, you have to think about your branding and you have to think about your sound because, for example, like when I was at Icon, dubstep and trap, everybody wanted to make that. But I looked around and I said to myself, all of these dudes are going to be competing against each other. And for the most part, they all sound exactly alike. So how can you differentiate yourself from the pack? You know, and I wasn't in love with trap or dubstep or bass house. I was really in love with like progressive and techno. Like this whatever I make now is what I was in love with, but I just didn't know how to do it at the time. So it's been a slow process getting there and really defining my sound. But I knew that if you're distinct enough, people will gravitate towards that, you know, and it's easier to stand out of the pack.
Yeah, because your sound's always going to be changing. Like you're still finding yourself, things you like. As you get older, your kind of tastes mature as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, absolutely.
Do you listen to like stuff that you originally came out with and you're like, that's so far off from where I should have went with that?
Yeah, I do, but I don't cringe at it because it's just it's part of the journey. You know
a lot
of
people don't see that part of the journey, and that's why I kind of like to go through the timeline of you as an artist, because a lot of people see your current releases and they see your music, but they don't understand that it's not like an overnight thing. This is something that took a full conscious effort from you as a child to say, I want to get into music initially. Yeah. And then you kind of, when you were going to UCLA, that's kind of, and you were in acting, like people are okay with just having that, but for you to be able to kind of veer towards what's something you actually like is the process. Yeah, definitely. You know, I mean, it was a really scary jump, just leaving all the hard work, the years that I put into acting. But I knew that if I didn't do it, I wouldn't be happy, and I can't sacrifice my happiness and my mental health. Preach, man. Preach. So once Icon ended, it was what, a 2-year program? 2 to 3 year program? So it was one really intense year. Okay. So one long year, you came out, hit the ground running, producing, DJing. Were you looking for local gigs? Were you kind of integrated with the scene at all out here? Or? So I didn't exactly hit the ground running. I created the EP that I was like, okay, this is the thing that I want to present to the world. How do I do that? All right. I was like, I don't. Wait. How do you get tracks signed to labels? Forgot about that part. They don't cover that. They just usually go about the logistics of producing itself, but not how to like brand yourself, market yourself. No. So there is a music business plan, or there's a music business. It's a whole other program. No, it's not. Well, it is now, but they have a music business class for the producer program, and they did go over that stuff, but it just seemed very out of reach to all the labels that I wanted to be on. And also when I listened to my music, I was like, oh, it doesn't exactly seem like it fits these labels. And also at the time I wasn't very aware of all the labels that are big, like in my scene right now, you know, all the labels that I work with now, I had no idea they existed. So I started off with this 2-track EP. And I had a friend who I had known since kindergarten. He happened to work at Insomniac at the time. So he knew Lane 8. And he was like, hey, I'll hit up Daniel and just try to get his opinion. He's like, because I'm actually close with him and I trust him. I was like, okay. And I was like, whoa. Sure. Yeah. I was like, wow, you know Lane 8? That's crazy. So he passed the tracks to Daniel, and Daniel at the time was thinking about starting a record label, but he didn't really know the direction he wanted to go, but he really liked my music. So he held on to those 2 tracks for like 7 months, basically majority of 2016. And he played one of them. The very first track that I ever released was Absolute Magnitude. He played that at EDC, and there was a video of it. And I was like, whoa, that's really cool, you know? So I thought I was gonna sign to whatever label Daniel was creating. Right. They ended up passing because they just had a different idea of what they wanted the label to sound like, which was totally cool. But so Aaron became my manager. He was like, let me just try to help you out. And he wasn't even a manager. He's like, I'm just going to try to help you out, see what we can do. He's a good guy. He is a really good guy. If you're listening, good for you, man. Yeah, Aaron Briscoe, thank you. Yeah. But yeah, so from there, he ended up meeting, you know, Mark and Drezik from Sound. And me and Mark, you know, Mark, if you watch this, you know, we talk about this all the time. Mark's story is that Aaron
pitched me so hard, Mark thought I was already playing everywhere.
Tight.
So
and
Mark
you hadn't played anywhere.
And I had never played anywhere outside of my bedroom. Ever. But I DJ'd all the time in my room, and like visualization. People always talk about visualization. It's going to sound funny, but I would just visualize playing in front of crowds, you know? Like, what would that feel like? What does that feel like? So I would just DJ in my room, but visualize the crowd. And so, anyways, going back to Mark, Aaron talked to him, and Aaron told him about, you know, like what our plans were and stuff, and Mark was like, why don't we just have him open up for Jeremy Olander? And Aaron's like, yeah, sounds great, man.
Just played it off okay.
Yeah, and then he hit me up. He's like, dude, you want to open up for Jeremy Olander? And I was like, what? What are you talking? Where? He's like, sound. I'm like,
so you were working on the technical abilities backstage. You were getting down the CDJs because you had bought it from the person, and you were producing music. So you were ready to kind of get that stage.
Yeah, I mean, I had just never
had the opportunity.
I had the opportunity to perform. Yeah. But you know, when I played at Sound for the first time, and this was like what, November. I remember the dates perfectly. This was November 2016, first show ever. It was at Sound Nightclub, and it was only because Mark thought I had already been playing everywhere. He tells me to this day, he's like, if I had known you had never performed anywhere, you would never have performed there. I'm like, all right, fair enough, you know? But yeah, I just took my shot, and everything went really well. And then after that, Lane 8, he hit up Aaron. He was like, hey, does Ricardo want to open up the Southern California leg of my This Never Happened tour? And that was his launch for the label and everything. And so
regardless of them not getting you on with the label, they were like, we're going to have you. Okay.
Yeah. So first he had me make a 1 hour mix just to know I could DJ.
Chops,
yeah, and also hear my track selection. And then after listening to that, he asked Aaron if I wanted to open up. So then, you know, from Sound, out of nowhere, I went from Sound to the Fonda to the Observatory to Bang Bang in San Diego were my first 4 shows ever. And like prior to that, I was stressing on if I could even get anyone to listen to my music. I didn't know what was going on or anything like that, but like I was really, really fortunate that
that's a very unique experience to kind of start yourself in the industry and in the scene, because that's just, I mean, you didn't go through the leg of booking for friends or playing in smaller shows and kind of trying to. That's interesting. That's great, dude.
Yeah.
And then so that was 2016, end of 2016.
Yeah.
I have it in my notes at Coachella 2018. You're already at the Yuma tent.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened in that 1 or 2 years? It was like from the leg of the tour or the tours that you did with him, you just kept producing,
Yeah. So kept producing. Actually, that show at, you know, to tie in all the homies, that show with Jeremy Olander in November of 2016. Andrew Condi from Understated approached me, and he was like, hey, I loved your set. I was wondering if you had any music. I'm going to be starting a record label with my friends called Understated, blah, blah. So I was the second release on Understated ever.
Have you guys know each other before?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Shout out the Understated crew.
Yeah, for real.
Appreciate you.
He just approached me, and like we hit it off. He was such a nice guy, such a friendly person, and I happened to have this EP called Veins. And I was pitching that everywhere, and it was one of those things, because I feel like my sound has always been in between progressive and in between techno, but back in 2017, people wanted you to be one or the other, so they would be like, this EP is great, but it's not techno enough, but it's not progressive enough, and so we didn't know what to do, you know? So Andrew and the Understated crew, they listened to it and they're like, dude, we want to put it out. And that was kind of like where things really started to get going.
Tight, dude. I love it. I mean, that speaks volumes about the industry here in the scene, is people are, you know, they kind of see something in someone and they want to put your music out. And it's great that people kind of have your best interest to get the music out.
Absolutely.
And then Coachella experience, was that again, you kind of jumped from there. You were a wave artist for Nocturnal. You played at 2019.
Yeah.
Your Billboard Dance's Emerging Artist for this year. DJ Mag's Artist to Watch 2019. That's your progression it's great.
Thank you.
I'm sure did that come all as a whirlwind, or were you able to kind
of? So everything I do is really, really calculated, and it's not like I was going for the Billboard recognition or going for the DJ Mag stuff, but I just really, really knew that if I truly focused on what I believed was my sound, what my sound is, and I didn't fall into any sort of fad or whatever, I felt like people would start to come around after a while. And, you know, a lot of the shows came from becoming a resident at Sound afterwards, and just like playing with all these big artists in my scene and having their management see me and stuff like that. Sort of just like spent all of 2017 just proving myself there, you know? And then the Coachella offer came, and that was actually a really big surprise. I had gone to Coachella 8 years in a row.
Damn.
Prior to that. So my 9th year going, I was performing, and it was a really special moment for me. Thank you.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so Coachella hit, and then actually I wait, is this 2018? Yeah, so
I think I saw you that year. I think I was there.
Inside the Yuma?
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, I think so.
You're a legend.
You're a legend. you're the legend, not me.
I appreciate you checking me out.
Of course.
But yeah, so 2018 was just like more grinding and figuring out my sound, and then, you know, the DJ Mag thing came and the Billboard thing came. Also in, wait, was that 2018? No, 2019 I won Insomniac's Discovery Project.
Tight.
Yeah, and so that Insomniac learned of me by winning their Discovery Project, and then from there I went to play Beyond Wonderland, EDC, which made everything come full circle last year.
Right.
And then Nocturnal, I won the Wave thing to play Nocturnal. And so all of that was kind of whirlwind, because every time I entered a competition, I was like, nah, nothing's going to happen. You know, like, this track is not even that good. But like, that's how I viewed my music and my submissions.
And you won.
Yeah.
And you won a couple times. I mean, you got, were you submitting them yourself as like, hey, I can't find a specific, or through a label you had to put them?
No, so for the Discovery Project thing, it was you know, submit one original track that's unsigned and make a 30-minute mix. And so I just made a 30-minute mix. I had a friend named Ari who won Discovery Project in 2014, and he gave me this tip. He was like, make sure your 30-minute mix is only originals. Obviously, they want to know who you are as an artist. And I was like, oh, yeah, because I was like just going to do a 30-minute mix of everything.
Just everything else,
yeah. So I did that, and then I ended up winning.
Did you have to, like, did you tell them while you were submitting, or you just put it in, and then as they listened to it, they, like, kind of had to go to you to send the track list?
I put the track list in the comments of this private SoundCloud. Yeah. So as soon as they saw Anakim everything, I figured they would look at it at least, you know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, that was definitely, like, everything coming full circle, because Insomniac was my introduction to dance music and dance music culture. And then I got to play EDC, and I was like, everything began at EDC. Yeah. And for me to even play it, I'm like,
yeah, what was that like? I mean, 10 years ago, you were attending, you know, your first EDC, and your view of everything changed, because you kind of changed the rest of your 10 years to kind of veer towards that genre of music, and then now you're on that stage.
Yeah.
What have you seen from yourself, let's say, from the 2010 Anakim to today, aside from like the classical training with Icon? What have you seen as far as like the difference between those two dudes?
Between the difference between those two dudes? I don't really know if there's that much difference, because I'm still as passionate and as in love with dance music culture, and the music scene. It's just I've just transitioned from being a fan who can withstand hours on end in the middle of like main stage, you know, in the crowd, to going behind the decks, and like I like get tired now. I'm a little bit older and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, I still have the same passion and enthusiasm for it, and I'm still like so grateful to be part of this culture. It's everything I wanted to be a part of, you know, and I didn't realize it at the time. Like, if you told me 10 years ago that I'd be DJing and stuff, I'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even want to DJ.
It didn't make sense.
Yeah, it didn't make sense at all, you know? But now it makes all the sense in the world.
And so now, with like the current climate of everything, as everything kind of came to a hard halt in March, what's the direction that you kind of are forced to take now? Are you focusing more on your producing? Are you focusing more on waiting until something comes up and getting a set going? Or
so I'm actually really grateful for this break. I'm not grateful for what's happened to the world and the pandemic and all of that stuff, but you know, it's I know I've heard a lot of people call it like the Great Reset or something like that.
Currently, this is the Great Reset.
Yeah, this is the Great Reset. Like it's given me a lot of time to really, really focus on the story I want to tell with this Anakim project. And I have all of these new ideas for 2021, like this new quarterly mix series that's going to be, nice. It's going to be like this huge story that I'm putting together basically, and I'm working with this really awesome artist. So the visuals are going to play heavily into it. I know I've been showcasing like some Cinema 4D stuff in the past, but I want to get even more. So like basically my branding and all the visuals to tell the visual story that I've always wanted to tell with Anakim, because I call it the Anakim project because, like, you know, if you know my music, you know I'm extremely inspired by everything that has to do with like space and interstellar travel, but also that's one big metaphor for the I guess you would call it intrastellar travel that you can do within yourself through meditation. I
like that a lot. Intrastellar.
Because I feel like you know, as vast and as big outer space is, as unknown as that is, your inner space is as vast and unknown to you. So it's just everything that you see with my visuals and stuff and like my music that tells the story of outer space, that's actually a metaphor for telling the story of your inner space.
I love that.
Yeah.
You're going to have to, I mean, you're playing that pretty close to the chest as far as trying to create something that comes from you directly.
Absolutely.
And you're working with an artist, you said, that's going to kind of help you.
Yeah, help bring the vision alive, and also tell the story of the Anakim, because the Anakim are a race of giants and they've been mentioned.
That's what I wanted to ask. Okay, tell me about that. It's a race of giants?
Yeah, so in the Bible, there are giants that are casually like mentioned across the scriptures. And I believe it's like the Rephaim, the Nephilim, and the Anakim. So the Anakim are giants mentioned in the Bible, and the longer story is the ancient Sumerians, which is widely considered the very, very first modern civilization. They sprouted something like 6,000 years ago. In their tablets, they speak about these beings that came from a planet, or Planet X. They call it Nibiru. These beings, they refer to them as the Anunnaki. They came and they were the ones who created life on Earth by splicing themselves, or their genes, with like
Jeez.
with genes of like some sort of ape ancestor.
Right.
You know, I'm not saying I believe this is fact. I'm just saying this is the story.
Right.
So the Anunnaki, they were giants themselves. And if you look at the tablets of the ancient Sumerians,
physical tablets.
Yeah, physical tablets,
yeah.
like drawings and stuff. I'll show you some after this
right.
this podcast. They depict the Sumerians speaking to these Anunnaki, in quote, gods, or these Anunnaki beings, but the Sumerians are standing up, and the beings that are sitting down completely eye level with them. These are the Anunnakis. So word is that the Anakim and all these giants that are mentioned in the scriptures, they are descendants from the Anunnaki. So the Anakim tie into space because they're descended from the Anunnaki, who are descended from the planet Nibiru, which is a planet that has an elliptical orbit of like 5,000 or 6,000 years, that says in the Sumerian tablets.
Right.
And it's lurking in our solar system. We just haven't found it yet. And, you know, like over the last few years, NASA has been publishing articles talking about how there's evidence for a Planet X out in the solar system. We just haven't been able to pinpoint it yet because the solar system is so big, you know? Like, people don't realize how big the solar system is and how big our own galaxy is, the Milky Way galaxy. Like, with our technology today, if we wanted to escape our Milky Way galaxy, it would take 36,000 years with our technology just to fly out of the galaxy.
I mean, we're having trouble getting to 3 or 4 planets away, let alone going out of the goddamn galaxy.
Exactly,
yeah.
You know? So that's the story of the Anakim, and I wanted my music to always sound like big, sort of have this huge quality to it, and I was like, okay, the Anakim are giants, and it has to
love that. It's very layered. There's more to it than just coming up with a name. That's absolutely.
Like, I go crazy with the thinking and
Hey,
stuff.
hey, the energy behind that, I think, is kind of, it helped you from the beginning. Well, when was it that you came out with that, Anakim? Was that there from the beginning, like while you were at Icon, you had kind of worked it out?
No, so I was really thinking about, I was like, do I want to be Ricardo LeBron and just come out with my regular name, or do I want it to be something else? And I started thinking about, all of these icons in music and how they have a different name. Also, I wanted to, just in case this thing did get big, I wanted to differentiate it from my normal self, because I do like being anonymous, and I like having that. I don't normally even
work-life balance.
Yeah, exactly. I normally don't even say my name. You know what I mean? But yeah. So outside of that whole storyline that I learned about and how I thought it represented me, and all my inspirations and whatnot, it also started with an A. And I knew if I booked any festivals and it's in alphabetical order, I would be at the top of the line.
Sick.
So
yeah, that's smart, because it's usually it's alphabetical when there's when there's big enough.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't want to be in the middle. Yeah. Like, I either need to have a Z name or an A name.
A's the best. Hey, I think you did. I think the level, again, how deep that is as far as like the substance that you're kind of trying to produce as an artist. It stems from how you innately feel about what you're trying to do as a producer or as an artist. You're not just coming into the game and being a fucking, I don't want to diss anyone.
I know exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like,
you're not doing it for shits and giggles. Like, you're doing it with actual purpose.
Yeah.
So the connections you make, the things you get yourself involved in, the music you put out, it's all reflecting of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like, if you start to look into my track names and my EP names, because all the EPs that I do, all the original EPs that I do, are like really big conceptual EPs. I have this whole story behind the EPs, but from all the track names, like Absolute Magnitude, the very first thing I ever came out with, that is a space term, like it's a measurement of how bright a star is. Then the second track was Dark Matter, and then when we got
Sounds like a trend here.
Yeah, then like, for example, the Mousetrap EP that I had, Heightened Sensitivity.
Yeah.
That EP was basically about a person who was searching for answers, and so Heightened Sensitivity represented the track name Heightened Sensitivity. That represented a person who started to have more of an awareness to the spiritual or metaphysical aspects of the world. And then the B-side, Ascension, is when that person attains enlightenment. But then moving from there, the next EP I had afterwards was called The Oracle. And an oracle is someone who holds answers. So the person searching for answers in Heightened Sensitivity was now meeting the oracle in that EP.
Dude,
so there's like this through line of my stories and whatnot.
That's fucking dope, dude. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And I mean, the oracle is the one that everyone is searching for. So was that kind of like an end to a series?
Yeah.
It kind of wrapped
basically
on that? Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
I get that.
Yeah, because I had... When I was producing the music for the Oracle, I actually, prior to that, I had finished watching The Matrix. Neo is
classic.
Neo is searching for the Oracle, right? And then I had also, like a couple days later, watched The Never-Ending Story again.
Classic.
And they too are searching for the Oracle, and I was like, wait, Heightened Sensitivity, searching for answers, the Oracle. I was like, dude, this is the storyline. It's all just being given to me,
And did it come out, were you happy with how you kind of were able to build the story as an artist? Because I'm sure the importance of it, because hindsight's always 20/20. Mm-hmm. So I know when you work through something, sometimes you can put it out and you do see it kind of not really connect how you would want.
Well, I wanted the second part to be sort of the conclusion to Heightened Sensitivity, but I just didn't know what to call it. And then when I watched these movies, I was like, the Oracle, that's the answer right there. And it was literally, the answer was given to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
you are Neo. Sick. You should have went with that. Well, talk to me about your newest EP, Love Never Dies. Great EP. Alana D's voice is gorgeous on that, by the way.
Yeah, Alana's crazy.
Yeah, really talented. And it's a 2-track EP, Love Never Dies and Bailey Song. So where was the kind of the spatial...
So Love Never Dies, I actually produced that a while ago. And I didn't... It was sort of a departure from my sound because, people sort of know me for this more aggressive intergalactic type of sound. But I kind of wanted to showcase a softer side, and it might not have come, or I might not have done it had my dog not passed away last year.
Which was Bailey.
Yeah, which is Bailey.
Right.
Yeah, that's why Bailey's song is named Bailey, or that's why it's called Bailey's song. Right. Last year, I got booked for Art of the Wild, and when I was in Vegas playing at Excess, it happened to be my birthday weekend. So, you know, it was like a really, really big moment for me. It was making my Vegas debut at a club that I had gone to a million times before. And so it was supposed to be like the happiest night of my life, but Bailey was my best friend for 8 years, you know? And when I got back to the hotel room, I had a phone call from my mom. She's like, you need to call me right now. It was like midnight, 2 a.m. And so I called, and that's when she let me know that they had to put Bailey down because he just collapsed. And when the doctors, you know, scanned him and stuff, they found that he had a very, very aggressive cancer that nobody had picked up. So
they completely missed it?
They just completely missed it. And I was like, what? But, you know, he was 8 or 9. He was a Wheaton Terrier, so he was about like 50, 60 pounds. Like, you know, medium big size dog. And they said that was normal. Like, dogs that old tend to get cancer. So I was really heartbroken then, and so I wrote Bailey's song. And then Love Never Dies was also sort of like, you know, that whole special bond that you have with anyone, whether it's a pet or a significant other. If it's a true special bond, I thought Love Never Dies. And so I made the music, and then I approached Alana. She's a good friend of mine. And I just told her about the concept, and like, she was the one who literally she came up with the lyrics within like 10 minutes and then laid down that entire track in 15. So we were done within 30 minutes.
Great cadence, great voice,
yeah,
great everything.
Within 30 minutes, like we had recorded all the vocals, and I just sat on that for a while, you know. And then I played a show. One of the last shows that I played was last December. It was for Les Youth's progression show, and this was like the start of very much the same way as like I played with Lane 8 when he started This Never Happened as his launch. This was Les Youth's launch for Progression Records, and you know, Les Youth went through a major rebrand and stuff with his sound. It's like making really, really cool, beautiful music. But I played B2B with 28mm at that show, and he Wes Les Youth, he was like, hey, I'm starting this label. If you have anything that fits, like, please send it my way. And I'm over here in, like, you know, aggressive, hard style of, like, progressive techno and stuff. So I'm not even thinking about Love Never Dies. 28mm signs an EP. And then Christian, he hit me up, and he was like, what have you done with Love Never Dies? And I'm like, oh, my God, I forgot about that. Yeah. And he's like, you should send it to Wes. And I sent it, and literally Wes signed it, like, after hearing it one time.
Absolutely.
He's like, I love it. So yeah, so that's how we got to where it is.
You
now.
seem to be like getting in right when things are starting to happen for a lot of people. I mean, maybe you're like the good luck charm for a lot of people's like creative pursuits.
That I mean, think of that? You might be really the influence about that, but I have no idea. But that's really cool.
That's a blessing.
That is a blessing.
Yeah, it's a blessing, and I'm happy for you. What can we expect from you this upcoming? Well, now it's, I guess, closer towards the end of the year, but like the end of this year, do you have anything kind of lined up? Or are you just mostly focusing on 2021 being a specific?
I mean, as much as I am focusing on 2021, I still have a couple of things coming out here at the end of 2020. I have a really, really, really cool, very different in terms of my sound, melodic techno EP coming out on this label in London called Somatic. It's already gotten support from like a lot of the artists that are on Afterlife, Tale of Us's label.
Right.
It's already gotten a lot of support from their live streams and stuff, and like they've hit me up on Instagram messages being like, hey, we got the promo. Dude. And that was something I didn't expect, because also I was like, oh, I don't know if these tracks are that good, blah blah. But then, you know, to see them giving me props on them, like I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be as harsh on myself.
Yeah, you've been doing that for like 10 years.
Yeah,
and every time you think that, motherfuckers like your stuff. So you should kind of, you know, have a little. You know,
just as an artist, you're the biggest.
I respect that.
Critic
I respect
of yourself.
That. I respect that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's shown, time and proven that you can, you know. You got it. You know what they like, and you know what you like, and you guys are kind of working together to make it happen.
I appreciate that.
That's
Thank
great,
you.
Man.
And then I have one more.
Yeah.
I have a remix coming out on Desert Hearts Black on November 9th. And really, really, really excited for both these projects to hit. So I hope you guys check them out.
Yeah, absolutely. And where can everyone find you, on socials or SoundCloud,
yeah,
Spotify's?
So social across the board is Anakim Music. My SoundCloud is just Anakim. And then, yeah, I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, whatever you use.
Do you have a preferred platform, like as far as like an artist putting your music out? I know people have tried to concentrate it. Like, let's say for this podcast, I have it on like Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube, just so I can kind of concentrate the views. Does it work the same with you and platforms, or you just get it out and however?
I mean, I would prefer you guys listen to my stuff on Spotify, because Spotify is, you know, the new thing. But Spotify and SoundCloud, I'm totally cool with. And then I'm most active on Instagram. So if you guys want to hit me up on Instagram, like, I answer all messages. If anyone has any questions about, you know, how they come in, how they can get into the industry, I really take my time with those people. So yeah, I literally answer everything.
Love it, man. That's the respect to you, and I'm sure that people appreciate it too. There's not too many people in the music industry that I guess people can count on. So to know that there's someone that has their back is more power to you.
Yeah, I definitely want to be one of those people, so thank you.
Of course, man. Is there anyone you want to shout out before we sign off?
Yeah, shout out my girlfriend, Bianca. Shout out my manager, Chris. Couldn't have done it. Wouldn't be anywhere without you. Shout out Mark and Drezik, and shout out 28mm. Oh, and Somi. Love you.
Appreciate it. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for coming in, man. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you.